Welcome to the Warrior's Way Home podcast.
So there's a man out there that is feeling unheard, unseen, and unwanted, and is about to make a permanent decision on a temporary feeling. What up, guys? Welcome back to Warrior's Way Home podcast. We are live today talking about the fight for men's mental health. Man, we are in Men's Mental Health Month. We are wrapping the month up and realized that, man, we really haven't talked a whole lot about that on the main channel. We talked about it in the Legion. We did some stuff on social media about it, but we have not talked about it here on the podcast, man. And that is an atrocious thing, and that's on us. That's on us for that. But we're not going to make it through all the way through Men's Mental Health Month and not talk about men's mental health. So we're going to dig into it, guys. Just want to check real quick. Check on you, man. Like, how you doing, man? How you doing? A lot of guys are out here struggling. Men's mental health isn't one of those things that really gets pushed a lot in society from what we see. A lot of it's more mental health in general, but not a lot of things focus mainly on men's mental health. And that is it's something that's really needed. It's something that's desperately needed, because unfortunately, the numbers and the data show that we as men are struggling more than ever with our mental health and our struggles with mental health. And in some cases, unfortunately, losing that battle that we find ourselves in. So, man, we're going to dig right into it, man. And one thing that prompted this conversation was we actually had the same conversation in the Legion in our community. Shameless plug there. But it was one of those things that we were like, man, something we need to talk about. Now, you guys may notice that, my co-host Edmund is not here with us, man. He is getting ready for his trip to Bulgaria for the Kudo, for a major Kudo. I think it's the Kudo World. I think champ. I think it is with the Team USA Kudo team. So he's been training with them on that. He's gonna be doing some coaching out there in Bulgaria, and I think they leave next week. So he's been super busy with that. So that's why he is not popping on with us today, because he's getting stuff wrapped up, getting ready to take that flight, man. So, but we're gonna hold it down, and we are going to hop right into it, man. Like I said, men's mental health is one of those things that gets talked about a lot, but it's one of those things that's desperately needed, because it affects all of society, and when it's not handled properly. For instance, like the numbers for just military veterans and active duty, the number of suicides is 22 at one point a day. 22 active duty and military veterans committed suicide every day. That was the old number. Unfortunately, we went from 22 to now, I think in 2025, there's some data that shows that we're at 44 military veterans and active duty and military veterans that commit suicide each and every day, from 22 to 44 now in 2025. And that number is just atrocious, man. It's a terrible thing. Yeah, so, and it's something that we definitely need to address, need to change, man. So, I've been very upfront and honest about my struggles with my mental health and suicide attempts and different things like that here on this channel. It's not something I shy away from, because as hard of a conversation as that is to have, to let you guys know that I've struggled with these things over the years, over the decades, and that I even have attempted to we'll say delete myself in the process. It's something that's needed to have, because I know I'm not the only one who's had those struggles. I'm not the only one who has those struggles. I'm not the only one who's going to have those struggles moving forward. So it's definitely something where it's hopefully showing guys that they're not by themselves, that you're not alone, and that somebody out there kind of knows what you're going through. Let me adjust this camera just a little bit, guys. There we go. It's looking a little crooked here, a little lopsided. But yeah, man. Like I said, it's one of those things that's really not addressed, because a lot of times we're just expected to just push through. A lot of times we as men are seen as, oh man, how you doing? It's like, oh man, I'm fine. They say, "Oh, bro, I'm good," and that's as deep as the conversation goes a lot of times. Even though we may be struggling with, feeling lonely, is a real one, especially today, where we don't have as many in-person um, friend groups and different things like that. People that we can count on, people that we can run to. Maybe people at work, we don't really mess with them like that, or we don't want to burden our families with, knowing that, hey, man, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with, maybe anxiety, depression, feeling, self worth, not feeling like a man, not feeling like I'm enough. It's a struggle and a thing that we find ourselves a lot of times fighting alone in a lot of ways. And the biggest thing with this broadcast, man, is I want you guys to know, if nothing else, that you're not by yourself in this, that you're not the only one going through this. You don't have to go through this by yourself. That there are resources, there are guys out there that you can tap in with who have had these struggles, who have gone through the things that you're going through, have fought through that dark spot that you may find yourself in right now, and have made it on the other side. That it may have been a struggle, like I said, it may have been a battle, it may have been a fight, especially on the inside of yourself, but that you can make it through, and life is better on the other side of that thing. That this is a temporary feeling. It's not something that you're going to feel forever. And that's important for you to know. Is like, it may feel like you're going to feel this way forever, that nothing's going to change, that you don't have any hope for the future. But this isn't something that has to stay the same for the rest of your life, because it's not going to stay the same for your life. We go through these ebbs and flows in life, man, where it's going to happen. You're going to have these high highs and these low lows. And man, you may just be in a valley right now, but you don't have to stay there, bro. And you're not going to stay there. That tomorrow, just tomorrow, your whole life can change. Promise you. Promise you, personal experience, in just one day, just how much your life can just shift. But a lot of times it requires you doing the work, man. It requires you willing to fight. Um, and we as men, we're willing to fight for, a lot of times we're willing to fight for everybody else, but we're not willing to fight for ourselves. And we got to change that, man. We got to change that. So let me hop in here. Let me see if there's any quick comments. Who we got joining the conversation, man? Like I said, this was not as much prep as we usually have on these, so we may not have a huge number of people popping in right away, but I'm sure I'm sure it'll be there, man. So anyway, we're gonna get into it. So what are some of the main issues that pop up with men surrounding their mental health? Like I said, a major one is depression. That's a huge mental health issue that pops up in pretty much all communities that the men roll in, the men find themselves in, is that depression. And it's something like that I've struggled with major, and many guys I've known, or guys I've been around, being around outside the military, but being around the military, I've struggled with over time. A lot of friends, a lot of family. Unfortunately, I've had too many friends of mine who have active duty, who are either active duty or retired military, who have unfortunately chosen chosen a different path and are no longer with us because they, honestly deleted themselves. So there's been, I think, four, three or four in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, which unfortunately is not a high number in this realm, in this society, of people who know active duty military, a lot of active duty military and retirees. That's actually a really small number. I've talked to people who have had 10 people, who have known 10 people in a year, who deleted themselves. And that's a rough conversation to have, man. It's like people that they actually knew, that they served with, that they worked with, that they knew, friends, family, different things like that. There are people out there who have had 10 in a year, and that's also sometimes on a low number, unfortunately. So yeah, depression is a major one. Anxiety, levels of anxiety have definitely kicked up in a lot of in general all over society, but in men it's definitely increased. That feeling of, I think a lot of times that feeling of not being enough, not having enough, not doing enough, and that almost worrying about the future, because that's really all anxiety. That's really what anxiety is. Is you're not really worried about now. You're more worried about the future. Depression a lot of times is unfortunately us hyper focused on the past. Anxiety is a lot of times us really focusing, hyper focused on the future in a lot of ways. So those two things. One thing that goes along with that in a major way that we really, really need to talk about is addiction. Alcoholism, drug addiction, um, even to pornography and sex addiction is a major one that kicks off with that. Another one is anger. People don't see anger as a mental health issue, but when your anger is used as a weapon to fight off the world, it definitely can turn into a mental health issue. A lot of times when you feel this internal anger, you feel angry out at the world because maybe how things that were done to you or stuff that's happened to you in your life, or how you feel like life is treating you. A lot of times that anger kicks off and explodes outward, or you turn that inside and you stuff it down inside you, and it's almost like it almost becomes like a bomb just ticking and ready to go off. And eventually the world's going to going to set off that landmine, and it's not going to be a great thing. I'm just checking, guys, to make sure that we're live on all the platforms and that we're looking good here. So yeah, we're going to Instagram. What up, Instagram? Hope you guys are doing well, man. I'll check on the old YouTube here real quick. Make sure we're live there and coming in clear. But yeah, man, guys, drop your comments in the comments section, man. If you've had struggles with mental health, somebody who has had struggles with mental health, um, any of those things, man. It's like, and we're not just gonna talk about it, man. We're actually gonna work on some solutions. What are some of the things I did, that I do actively to work on my mental health, to maintain my mental health. What are some of these tools that we have access to nowadays, so that we can actually um, really not just survive this life, but actually thrive in it. So yeah, we have depression, we have anxiety. Not we have. There's depression, there's anxiety. Like I said, there's anger, there's addiction. Major addiction, alcoholism, drug abuse. All these different things that play a major role in mental health, because a lot of times we as guys, when we don't look for help on the outside of the world, we don't look for help outside of ourselves, so we end up self-medicating in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of guys are more likely to just self-medicate to try and either fight off or quote unquote, address the problem, hide from the problem, because you're not addressing it. If you're getting drunk every night, if you're, um, you know, getting blackout drunk every time you drink, or you're you're self medicating with uh, marijuana, with cocaine, with whatever drug of choice. Some people are doing cough syrup is a big one that's kicking off now. Any of these things, if you're doing any of these things to try and you're not just medicating, you're running from it. And I've been there too. As I get to the point where I was probably on the path to becoming an alcoholic, because I was running from the darkness, man. I was running from my inner demons, my dark side, that stuff I had inside me that I didn't want to deal with from my past, and stuff that's happened to me, and the thoughts I was thinking at the time, and how I really didn't think I was a good person, to be real about it. So in a lot of ways, so in some ways, I acted like I wasn't a good person, and it can be a hard thing, man, because especially when we have all these things going on, and then we feel like we got to wear a mask at the same time to like to not be a burden on family or friends, to maintain our appearance at work or in friend groups, or whatever level of whatever we're doing outside of here, in our personal lives. Feeling like we have to wear this mask to, so that the world doesn't see all the chaos going on within us. that is a tough battle, because not only are you're almost fighting a fight on two fronts. You're having this internal war, kicking off inside of you, in your mind and your body and your spirit, but you also have this fight to keep up appearances, so that so that the world doesn't see that you're flawed, and that you're maybe that you're weak, whatever it may be that you feel like, if the world sees that you are having these issues, that you're gonna feel, that, like I said, you're flawed, you're weak, that you're not a man, that you can't handle you can't handle yourself, that you need someone to step in on your behalf, that you're not man enough to handle this situation. And that's just not the case, man. But it's one of those things that we feel like we have to keep up this front to for the world, for whatever reason. Like I said, whether it be not to burden others, or it be not to feel weak, which was my thing. It's like I have had, and I still have a very hard time in situations where I feel like I may be looking, feeling, or acting weak. And that's something that I still struggle with, and it's one of those things that's been something that I've had to actively work on, and still am working on, because I'm not perfect, man. We always say on this channel that we're not perfect, we're not your guru. A lot of times we're just a few steps ahead of you, but we can tell you about the pitfalls, the booby traps, and the things that are going to trip you up on your path to becoming the best version of yourself as a man. So we talked about some of the key things that men are tapped in with, and the big thing I want to say, and PTSD is another one. Is another major one. For those who know this, post-traumatic stress disorder. And one thing we talked about in the Legion call that we did was that at one point I actually was going to therapy, and was talking to the therapist and everything like that, telling her, it was the point where they want to know about your past and what's happened, because stuff had just gotten so bad that I was like, if I don't get this out of me, I'm gonna probably hurt people. So let me just go ahead and get this out. So, and talking and everything like that, and her asking the questions, and me, actually being open and actually sharing with this person. Um, at the end of near the middle of one of our sessions, she was like, she kind of went, and what's the about? She's like, it sounds like you have, from everything you've told me, and the questions I've asked, and how they break it down. She's like, it sounds like you have pretty severe PTSD. And I was like, what are you talking about? I wasn't in the military. I said, I'm Army brat, but I was never in the military. It's like I never served anywhere. I wasn't police or firefighter or any of that kind of stuff. And she was just like, you don't have to be in the military or in any of these protective services, or fire safety, or any of these things to have PTSD. And it clicked with me. She was, and the more I dug in, and from that moment, the more I dug into it, the more I found out, like, how, not how easy it is to have PTSD, but how the spectrum of, like, how this goes. That, like, yeah, it's not just a military thing. It's like, if you have severe enough trauma for you, and the level of how intense it is, it's not based on anybody else's scale. It's like, how did this come off to you? There are people who've gotten into car accidents who have PTSD, because just that level of anxiety and that level of trauma that comes with that is just so high for that person. Whereas you have other people who, like, they get in a major crash and they walk away and they just brush themselves off and they're fine. Now that trauma gets stored in their body from that, but they may not necessarily experience PTSD from that, because for them that wasn't a high enough level to, like, really have a lasting effect. Because really what PTSD is like a lot of times you not being able to let go of a situation, and carrying that with you to the point where there are triggers in your life that almost like bring you back to that scenario, to whether it be in your body, in your mind, or you like literally go back to that place. Like you see in like you hear about with veterans, or like especially like Vietnam or these major wars, where it's like they maybe watch something, see something, smell something, or experience something, and they literally snap back to where they feel like they're in that moment again. They feel like they're back in the jungle with Charlie. They feel like they're back in the foxhole. They feel like they're back in a firefight or a battle or going through whatever they're going through right now in that moment. They're actively reliving that like they're in VR, like they're right there in that moment. They can smell it, they can feel it, they feel the heat, they can see the bullets hitting, they can see people dying and all these different things like that. They literally go back there. Now they may be sitting in their own living room right now, but in their mind and in their body, they're boom right back in that moment. Sometimes it's that severe, sometimes it's just in your body, to where it's something happens, for instance, like somebody with a car accident, somebody cuts you off in traffic and your whole body tightens up, not just that one tense, but the whole body tightens up, and your level of anger or your level of anxiety goes through the roof, to maybe you have to pull off the road, or you start flipping out over somebody cutting you off, because your whole body just goes back to that moment when you had that car accident. Like I said, may not be an actively mental thing where you go back there, and you're reliving that, but it's like, but your body is. And that's a lot of the cases with PTSD. Like I said, active duty military, yes, police, firefighters, all these different things like that. But people who've been in accidents, people who've had, abusive childhoods, people who have had major trauma, major accidents, for themselves in their lives, can experience PTSD. Now, one thing I want to say is I never will call it, my PTSD, or I usually don't say things like I have PTSD. What I'll say is, they diagnosed me with. I don't ever call it mine, because I believe that whatever you fight for, you get to keep. And if you call something yours, that obviously means that you want to keep it because you just named it. Because it's yours. It becomes like a pet. It's like, that's my dog, that's my car, that's my PTSD, that's my anxiety. It's like you're naming these things and giving power to it. And the biggest thing I can say is, you don't want to give power to these things unless you actually want to keep them. So if you want to keep your anxiety, cool, keep calling it your anxiety. If you want to keep your PTSD, cool, keep calling it your PTSD. Now, I'm not saying, it's not on this woo-woo thing where it's like, oh, if you don't call it and you just ignore it, it won't exist. I'm not saying that. You still got to do the damn work. But also, while you're doing that work, don't be dragging it along with you every chance you get, or every conversation, dragging it out of the closet and dragging it with you around the room. If you say you actually want to get rid of this thing and you're actively doing the work to it, why are you actively doing the work to overcome this thing, but also dragging it behind you? You're shooting yourself in the foot in that case. You're only doing yourself damage with that. So what are some of the things that really kick off? I'm gonna try and not make this too long, because your boy can ramble. What are some of the things that kick off mental health issues, mental health crisis? So there's a few different things. There is there's an acronym that they call HALT. It's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That they mention. And in a lot of cases, that's when people can find them when they're in some of these states, especially if it's like two or more of these places. We can find ourselves, dipping into bad habits, having starting to really dive into some of these experiences with depression, anxiety, and different things like that. So, you have hungry, which obviously is, are you actually hungry? Have you eaten? Have you been feeding your body properly? Because one thing that goes into it is, are you actually eating properly? Because they've actually found scientifically links between a healthy diet and an unhealthy diet, and an improved state of mental health and a decreased state of mental health. If you're eating, nothing but fast food, and drinking, not drinking water, but you're drinking quite a bit of alcohol on a regular basis, and soda and energy drinks and all these different things like that, smoking, you're poisoning your body. If you're poisoning your body, what do you think's happening to your mind? What do you think's happening to your brain in these instances? So how can you expect to have a healthy mental state, but you're poisoning yourself at the same time with, like I said, fast food? You haven't touched a vegetable in who knows how long. You only, your body's giving you signs because you haven't You haven't shit in the last 2 days. So your body's giving you, you're not hydrated. The brain's mainly water, and you're not, hydrating yourself. You're drinking coffee and energy drinks, which are actually diuretics, which makes you more dehydrated and affects your brain, which affects your mental state. So there's a mind body, there's a food body connection, there's a mind body connection that goes on at play in these scenarios. So one of the first things that you can do if you find yourself in not a great place mentally, if you're starting to feel like you're depressed, or you're feeling lonely, or your anxiety's kicking up, maybe you're feeling angry, you're getting into more arguments, you feel like you're getting your stress level super high. First thing you should probably do is take a look at what you're eating. It's like, one, are you hungry? Two, what are you feeding yourself? Because you're not just feeding, you're fueling. What are you fueling? A lot of us are fueling our depression, fueling our anxiety, fueling our stress in a lot of ways by the things we're eating, rather than fueling our body to reduce these things. Just like you can fuel your body to reduce inflammation, you can fuel your body to reduce your risk of cancer, heart disease, all these different things like that. You can fuel your body in a way that reduces your stress level, that reduces your anxiety, that reduces your level of depression and these different things like that. If you're feeding yourself the right way, more whole foods, vegetables, fruits, making sure you're hydrated, eating less of the refined carbs like burgers and cakes and all this other BS that we end up feeding ourselves. Doing less of that and doing more whole foods, more things that don't come in a package. Um, these different things like that, hydrating yourself with, getting the minerals you need, getting the vitamins you need, getting the sunlight, all these different things like that. So that goes into the H of halt, hunger. So because that has a major effect on our mental state, and like I said, the level of these mental health issues that we have in a lot of cases, because even in psych wards, they tailor, and this is where they've done the studies of giving people a horrible diet of, like, McDonald's and all these different fast foods and sodas, and not water, not giving minerals, not giving vitamins, not giving them foods that actually feed their body, but just will sustain life. And these are two very different things. And compared to when they change up their food to where it's like they know there's a minimal amount of ingredients that go into their food, is maybe home cooked, more greens, more fruits, more vitamins, more nutrition, more nutritionally packed foods, and watch the state of these people in these mental health facilities just take a dramatic change, either diving down or on the upswing, depending on how they fed them. So they've done the studies on this. So there is definitely a tie between what you eat and how you feel. So we definitely need to look at that. So that's the halt, that's the hunger. Then the anger. We talked about this with the mental health a lot of times. Anger is a big sign of how you're going to be affected mentally. It's like, are you getting angry, and are you getting angry about bullshit that one has nothing to do with you, but doesn't matter at the end of the day? Like I said, does a lady, old lady, cut you off in traffic because she's bumping DMX down on the way to go pick up the grandkids, and she's late, and she cuts you off in traffic, and you're flipping out for the next 30 minutes, or trying to follow her home, weaving in and out of traffic? Are you getting angry? And what are you getting angry about? Is it actually worth getting angry about? Because other things worth getting angry about? Oh, hell yeah. Yes, absolutely. But I guarantee you it's probably not somebody cutting you off in traffic. Are you want to die on that hill? I bet you're not. I bet you're not. And if you are, you probably need to sit down with somebody and have a conversation. Um, but yeah, the anger thing is like, are you angry? Do you find yourself angry? Because that can actually assist you in spiraling out in other areas of your life, if you're not dealing with the anger that you feel kicking off in you, man. That can be a major one that kicks off. Okay, just checking here real quick. But yeah, so that's a major one with the anger. Like I said, are you feeling angry? Are you experiencing these things? And but why? Why are you angry? And is it worth it? Is the biggest thing, because a lot of times we'll get real angry. I do it. I get real hot real quick about something sometimes, and then I sit back and be like, that was stupid. That was stupid for me to get angry about. That wasn't even worth it. Now I'm all hyped up. I'm all revved up, and now I got to bring myself back down, to base, where I usually am, and it wasn't even worth it. It wasn't something where I needed to fight somebody. It wasn't something where somebody was attacking me. Maybe I felt attacked, but they weren't actually attacking me. Nobody I care about got hurt, um, and they weren't affecting my money. So what am I angry about? you know, it's like those main things I'm willing to fight for. Yes, I'm willing to get upset about my family. If you fucking around my family, I'm willing to get upset and fight, and you're gonna have a big issue on your hands. If you actively attack me, you're gonna have a big issue in your hands. Yes, I'm willing to fight them. Yes, I'm willing to get aggressive and angry and violent and go to a dark place with those two things. Absolutely. You will have the wrath come down on you from heaven. Um, so family, you actively attacking me, and then you affecting my living, you affecting my money. Maybe you're trying to rob me, or you're trying to in some way steal from me, or get over on me in a major way, and really hit my pockets. Like, you might as well just have your hand going after my wallet. Yes, am I willing to get upset about that? Yes. Is like, but perceived disrespect, no, 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 no. That's not something really worth getting angry about, because a lot of times it's all in our heads, and we see it's like, oh man, they're disrespecting. Are they though? Are they there, or are they just living? And what does that have to do with you? Because someone else is acting up and acting out, it's your choice to involve yourself in their world. Because until you get upset about it, until you get hype about it, you get in their face, or you get angry, and try and do something about it in whatever way you try and do it, that's when you step into their world. But until you get upset about it, it doesn't involve you. And these are things, I'm not saying it's like I'm holier than thou, or that I've mastered all these things. These are things that I've really, really had to work on myself. And but and stuff that I still do. I still have to remind myself. It's like, why am I fighting their fight, as we say? Fight your fight. But the minute somebody gets upset and you decide to get upset with them, now you're fighting their fight. The minute somebody decides to really try and get a rise out of you, and you allow them to, then you're fighting their fight. You're not fighting yours anymore. So anger, that's another big one. So we have hunger, we have anger, loneliness. Loneliness, we have as they say, we have a loneliness epidemic now in society, especially in the West, where mostly people are just on social media. It's like we spend more and more time on social media, and less time with people in real life. You know, guys hanging out and going, being on baseball teams, or basketball leagues, or going to the dojo and doing martial arts, whether it be BJJ, or karate, or kickboxing, or boxing, or whatever it may be, whatever you choose to do. Going and playing racquetball, with the guys, once a week, or whatever it may be. We are doing less and less of that in society now, and spending more and more time on this thing, the demon box. um, it's definitely creating a loneliness epidemic, man, to where we don't feel connected to other human beings. And we as humans are not designed to not feel connected in a real, um, legitimate way. But it's one of those things, the more and more time we spend there, so loneliness can kick off, like I said, those dark thoughts. When I would spiral out, that's one thing I really had to look at. Was a lot of times I didn't feel connected to anybody, and it made it real easy for me to just spiral out and just go deeper and deeper and darker and darker and deeper, and before I knew it, you know um I was ready to check out. I was ready to clock out in a lot of ways over time, because I didn't feel like it mattered. I didn't feel like I mattered. I didn't feel like, I had any value that I was bringing to the world. I didn't feel like I would be missed, if I'm going to be real about it. I didn't feel like I would be missed. I was like, the world's probably better off without me being here. I felt that way. And I think a big reason why I felt that way is because I didn't feel like I had, a enough of a real connection with the people around me, whether it be friends or family. If I'm gonna be real about it, I didn't feel connected with my family. In a certain sense, I still don't. But I have more people now around me that I've developed like real, actual connection with, where I'm like, okay, they know some things about me that no one else does. Um, and they don't know everything. Nobody knows everything about you, and that's probably not going to be one of those things that happens. I'm not telling you to spill your guts and tell them all your secrets to just a random dude on the bus. No, but having us, even having one person that that you can talk to when you're having these struggles, like, hey, bro, it's like, man, I just need to talk, bro. I just need to talk. I just need to be around somebody. I don't even need to talk. I just need to just get out of my environment. I just need to, let's go play pool. Let's go let's go hit the dojo. Let's go work out. Let's go for a walk. Let's just go do something. I got to get out of the space that I'm in right now and change my environment to get me out of the spiral that I find myself in right now. I need to step out of this. Otherwise, it's going to be, I'm going to have problems. And, people that are willing to step in that for you and be the support that you need in ways like that, even if it's just like being around you, be like, hey, bro, I just need to be around. I need to be in a different environment with some different people right now. So that loneliness one is a big one. And then you have tired, which is the T. It's like, so are you are you not just, and when we hear tired, we think just sleepy. Not just talking sleepy. It's like, is your body tired? Are you getting enough rest? But are you also treating your body well? Are you working out real hard and working real hard, and your stress levels are high, but you're not actually resting? Because there's a difference between sleeping and resting. Are you resting? Are you recovering? Are you doing what you need to take care of your body so that you can be optimal in life in all areas? Or are you just doing enough to maintain, just like with a car, where like you only change the oil when the oil light comes on, or you only you only swap the tires out when they're bald. It's like, are you actively taking care of your body, or maintaining it, or are you just doing the bare minimum with yourself and your body? And your body is your mental health too. Your body, your mind, body, and spirit. Are you taking care of these things? Are you tired? Do you feel drained? Do you feel stressed out? Have you got enough sun, or have you been indoors all winter long and now you haven't stepped outside and saw the sun, so you're like a damn vampire? Um, especially those of us who work work overnights, which I have started doing, and it's brutal. So one of the first things I do when I get home at 6, by the time I get home at 6:30 in the morning from like working 9 p.m. So it's like under fluorescent lights all night and all this other mess, man. It's like, it can be rough on the body. So one of the first things I do is just sit outside for like 15-20 minutes, just on the front step, and just like let the sun hit me, bro, and just sit in the sun and just like no phone, just sit there and just breathe and be, man. And that can be one of the best things that you can do for your body and your stress levels in a lot of ways. So definitely, are we taking care of ourselves? Not just are we getting sleep, but are you resting? Are you recovering? Are you stretching? Are you, how are your muscles feeling? Are you tight, tight like this? How can you be calm when you're walking around like this? Because all your muscles in your body are just like rocks. Going and getting massage, taking hot showers, learning how to stretch, doing more of that on a daily basis, doing these things that actually we're taking care of ourselves and not just like barely maintaining ourselves because we need to function. So that halt is an important one, man. Remember, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. When we find ourselves starting to go down these spirals, asking yourself these questions, like, okay, man, it's like, I'm not feeling good. I'm not in a good mood right now. I don't want to be around people. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling alone. I feel like, I don't want to be here. What is okay? Am I hungry right now? No, I just ate. Okay, I'm good. What did I eat? It's like, okay, I did kind of eat like shit, or no, I ate good. I did, I did what I was supposed to do. Okay, am I angry? Yeah, I'm feeling a little angry right now. Yeah, I'm feeling that I'm stressed out over some stuff that happened. It's happening at work, or happening in my relationships, or stuff that's going on, or I felt like somebody disrespected me last night. Whatever it may be, I'm a little angry. Or no, I'm chill. I was fine before this moment. Right now, I was actually feeling pretty good. Okay, am I lonely? It's like, yeah, I'm not really feeling connected with the world or people around me. Haven't really hung out, just hung out in a while. I haven't gone hiking. I haven't done a lot of things that I like doing or enjoy, the hobbies that I have or whatever it may be. I haven't done those things. Maybe I should, come, call my boy and go play pool or go for a walk or get out of this environment that I'm in right now and get around some other people or go hang out with somebody I actually like versus people I'm forced to every day at work. Um, okay, so I'm dealing with that. Am I tired? He's like, man, I'm stressed out. My body, I'm feeling it in my body. I'm feeling it in I'm feeling it in my mind. I'm mentally tired. One of the roughest things you can hear a guy say when you ask him, is he all right? It's like, bro, I'm tired, bro. And a lot of times it's not even like just body tired. A lot of times it's mentally and spiritually just tired. Be like, bro, I'm tired of. I don't know if I have anything left to give. That kind of tired. That can be a real. And if you have a friend or somebody you know around you, or you find yourself saying that, man, that's a real big sign that you probably really need to really either hyper focus on that person for a little bit, even if it's just listening or whatever it may be, or you probably need to really get around somebody else, switch your environment, or go talk to somebody because that I'm tired, boss. That can be a rough one, man, and that's definitely a big sign, especially for men, for us to not just be like, man, so yeah, man, I'm good, I'm just tired, He's like, man, bro, I'm tired. That's a sign. That is a big ass red flag for a lot of guys because that's us. That's about as close as a lot of us get to being like, bro, I can't do this. As I just feel like I can't do this anymore. It's like I don't have anything else, man. I feel like I'm running on E. I don't have anything else to give the world, and I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. I can't fight anymore. I don't want it. I'm tired. That's that that that's the in a lot of cases that's our I'm tired. And that's about a lot of times as close as we get to, really admitting that, what's actually going on in the inside of us is that, bro, I'm tired. I'm tired. So yeah, if you're hearing that, man, or you find yourself saying that, definitely a warning sign of some things that could possibly be popping off. So definitely check into that. But yeah, man, like I said, I didn't want to make this a long one, man. I definitely want to just hop on here and have some meaningful conversation and maybe even answer some questions or different things like that and talk about some of these experiences that we face because the mental health thing, man, is a major it can be a major issue. I know I went through it for decades, man, where it's like if I knew then what I know now, man, it would have definitely life would have been so much easier, bro. So much easier. But it's like, but you don't know what you don't know, man. It's like, and I had to do a lot of work on myself, and in a lot of different ways, figuring out some things that worked and some things that didn't. That okay, what are my triggers? What am I really facing? What am I even fighting? Because a lot of times, it's just figuring out like what are you actually fighting against? Because sometimes we're running so long from the thing that we forget what the thing even is. It's like, okay, is it something that happened to, is it how maybe you got abused? Is it something that, you have these, relationships or you grew up in a certain type of way and you don't know how to deal. It didn't prepare you to deal with certain things in your life, whether it be relationships or, being a man or, how to handle finances or how to, what happens, when you, do get to the point where you gain some wealth or you gain some success or you gain some status in this world, but you weren't trained for that thing. So you end up finding yourself where you're making major mistakes that you feel like other people that you shouldn't be making because it's like, man, it's like other people seem like they have such an easy time with this thing, but it feels like it's such a struggle for me. A lot of times we feel that way. Just checking the chat here real quick. Yeah, man. But it's one of those things that a lot of times we spend so much time running from the thing that we forget what we're even running from. What's the underlying issue? Because it's not just that you're, depressed. It's not just that you have anxiety. It's not just that you have PTSD. These things are a side effect of something that happened. These things are. It's not the cause. It's the symptom. It's like, so what's the cause of this thing? If depression is the symptom, if depression is the side effect of this thing that happened to me, what is the thing that happened to me? And that's what I need to work on. That's what I need to really start digging into. That's what I have to be brave enough, have enough cojones to turn and face, man. And a lot of it, once you stop running, once you stop avoiding, once you stop self-medicating, once you stop filling your life with busyness, work and study and this and that and women and all these different things like that, to avoid looking at you, to avoid facing you, because that's all our demons are in a lot of cases, is versions of ourselves that we don't want to accept, versions of ourselves that we don't want to look at, versions of ourselves that we want to forget. You know, we want to forget about that version of yourself when when you were getting made fun of by family at 6 years old on a regular basis. You want to forget that version of yourself. We want to block that out. We want to forget that version of ourselves where you got cheated on, by your first girlfriend in a major way, that felt like the first time you felt like you loved somebody and who loved you, and you got cheated on. You felt that devastation on the inside of you, where you just felt like something broke in you, and you don't want to face that. That version of you. You don't want to face that version of you that feels inadequate, that feels like he's not good enough, that feels like he's not smart enough, or whatever it may be. You don't want to face that version of yourself. You want to face some of the dark shit that has happened to you, or some of the dark shit that you've done in your life. You don't want to face that version of you that did those things or experienced those things. So we run from them constantly. And until we stop doing that, when we stop running, when we stop self-medicating, when we stop the distractions with social media and work and this and that and people and places and all these different things like that, things, getting the new cars, chasing the bag and doing all these different things like that, with a lot of cases are distractions from us facing ourselves. When we stop running and we turn and face ourselves, man, that's when we can actually really start to address the issues. Because how do you fight the opponent that you never see? How do you fight the opponent that you never look at? How do you address a situation that you don't even know what the situation is? You don't know if there's a fire. You don't know if there's a car on fire going on behind you, or just a fender bender. You don't know what's going on because you're choosing not to look at the thing. So how can you address the situation, that's behind, that's affecting you, that's chasing you, if you're not actually willing to look at it? There's a story that I heard of, the little boy that runs from, a lot of us have got chased by dogs and stuff like that. But there was a boy that got chased by a dog every day coming home from school, like clockwork, and he would just run from this dog. The dog started, he reached a certain point. He knew it was coming, and the dog would, pop out and start barking, and he'd start running, and the dog would start chasing him every day, chasing him home from school every day, every day, every day. And after about 2 weeks of this, man, the kid got fed up. He's like, I'm not running anymore. And he's like, tomorrow I'm going to turn around, pick up a brick. I'm going to hit that dog in the face. And, same thing happened. He got to a certain point, and here comes his dog, rah, 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 rah. And he goes running and starts booking it. And then he remembers, he's like, no, today I fight. And he stops about halfway where he would have. And he looks down, finds a rock, picks up a rock, and he turns to fight the dog. He's like, ha. And he looks, and the dog's bark, rah, 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 rah. And it's vicious, and it's big, and it has no teeth. So the whole time, the dog he's been running from, the thing he's been terrified about, the things he's been having nightmares about, the thing that's been chasing him home every single day for 2 weeks, is this big, loud, old dog with no teeth that couldn't bite him if you wanted to. And a lot of us, man, are running from a lot, and it's not all cases, but man, some of the things that we're running from are dogs with no teeth. Some of them are major issues that we really, if we want to live and be the men we say we want to be, we have to turn and face them, man. We have to fight our demons. We can't keep living our life afraid to fight the fight. I think I told Edmund during our call that I was like, man, it's like, honestly, man, there's been times in my life, and still times in my life, where I'd rather fight 10 dudes with like knives and, clubs and all these different things like that in a dark alley than be real about my emotions with somebody. Like, have that deep conversation, be real about like the fact that, yeah, bro, I was like, I'm feeling lonely, or I had this thing happen to me, and I'm not over yet, or I'm still working through the issues with this thing. It's like, or this is where I felt, or feeling vulnerable or feeling weak, putting myself in a situation where I crack open up that armor and people get to see all the scars and battle wounds and shit that I've gone through, and things that don't make me look like I'm like this. It's like, I'd much rather fight 10 dudes in a dark alley, with one arm tied behind my back, than even be in a situation where I could get emotional in front of somebody. And that's one of those things that I've had to really work on, man. And I know I'm not alone in that. And but it is still something that I need to work on with me. I'm still working on me, just like everybody else is. But I say that to say that until I really started looking at that and really looking at it, it's like, okay, that's the thing, but why is it a thing? And I probably should, if that's a thing for me, that's a major thing to where I'm not really, because how can you connect with somebody if you're afraid to be actually, you're afraid? 'Cause that's what it is. It's fear. I'm actually afraid to be vulnerable in any kind of meaningful way. Not just, like crying at the drop of a hat and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that kind of vulnerable, like, but being vulnerable at all, like giving you an op, because all that is I'm afraid to give you any kind of power over me, to any kind of leverage over me, for you to know anything about me that you can use later on down the line as a weapon against me. And treating everybody like that because I'm afraid. That's not a way to be, man. That's not a way to be. How do you build a relationship like that? How do you build a real relationship like that? How do you build real friendships like that? How do you deal with your kids when you're living that way? That's that's not a way to be, man. That's not a way to be. And for me, I know if I keep running from that and I don't address it and I don't fix it, if I just leave that alone, that is going to keep causing chaos in my life, because it has caused chaos in my life when I look back at my relationships. And it's going to keep doing that in, maybe not in as major ways, but because I'm aware of it now, but it's going to keep being an issue until it's no longer an issue. So yeah, guys. But anyway, man, just wanted to hop on here and do this, hop on this call real quick, and do this, talk about the fight for men's mental health, because like I said, this is Men's Mental Health Month, and it's an important topic, man, that we really need to be more open about what's going on with us as dudes and with the things that we're experiencing. So yeah, man, just wanted to hop on here, check in, make sure everybody's doing all right, and keep building these bonds, man. Keep having these hard conversations, because we can't be afraid of having these hard conversations, man. Because this is how we grow. This is how we become, the well-rounded modern day warriors that we talk about. This is how we bring this in, because it overflows in everything. It's not just personal, man. This stuff overflows into business. It overflows into your school. It overflows into your job. It overflows into your relationships. It overflows in different areas. It may show up in different ways, man, but it affects us in all areas of our life, if we don't address these things. So it's definitely something we want to work on, because every day we want to be getting better. Not saying we have to be perfect. Not saying we're going to fix the problem tomorrow. But if we're actively working on becoming, better and better and better, and addressing these things, not afraid to face the demons that we've been running from, the dogs without teeth, and the demons hiding in the dark, um, that we've been avoiding, or that we're not looking at, but we know what's in that dark, but we choose not to look at it. We choose not to see. We're sitting there like a kid with their head over, with the covers over our head, being like, it's not there, it's not there, not there. No, it's still there. You're just ignoring it, and it's not going away. It's only going to get louder. It's only going to create more problems. It's only going to bring you more devastation. It's only going to bring you more issues, in different kind of ways. You're only going to, have to go harder trying to distract yourself, trying to medicate yourself, trying to do these things to fight this thing. It's not going to get quieter, bro. So you might as well turn and face it now. Okay. And realize that you're not alone in this situation. You're not the only one fighting this fight. You're not the only one having these struggles, bro. You're not by yourself. You don't have to be by yourself in these instances. Okay. You can have a group of guys around you, like we have in the Legion, where it's guys, on path to become for self mastery, whether it be mental, physical, or spiritual. in these ways, and tapping into this and improve ourselves, improve our business, improve our careers, and all these different things like that, who have had these struggles and still going through these struggles and support each other. You can be in these areas and step into these rooms. It doesn't have to be ours, shameless plug, but stepping into AA meetings, or different self-help, or even just talking to somebody, man. If it's that severe, even hitting the number for the suicide hotline, there's no shame in that. Doing that versus making a permanent decision on a temporary issue is a much better choice. Okay. Now I'm not going to judge the people who do these things, because I've been there, and while it leaves a lot of chaos behind them, it leaves a lot of pain behind them. I could see why they did it, because I've been there. So I can't judge them on making that choice, because I've almost made that choice. But at the same time, being on the other side of that, having this many people in my life, which has been way too many, and it's been really hard, who have deleted themselves in situations, and not died of natural causes, not died of old age or accidents or anything like that, but went out by their own hands. It is a hard thing to deal with afterwards, man. And that's not, may sound selfish, but because they were struggling. But it's one of those things, like, man, the chaos that ensues afterwards, and the amount of pain and anguish that gets left behind from that thing, man. I think if they knew how much it was going to hurt everybody who got left behind them, that it probably would have been a second thought to doing this thing. Oh, maybe there's another way. And it's all it is. All we need in those moments is a glimpse of hope, just a speck. Not even like, light up, the whole room lights up and everything, everything's beautiful. No, I just need to see just a flicker, a spark of light in the darkness, man. A lot of times to be like, well, maybe, what's that? Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another way. Maybe I just one more day. Maybe I can fight just one more day. Maybe tomorrow will be better. It's like, what can I do? Where am I at? It's like, is this what I really want to do? For me, it was like, am I really going to let life beat me like this? As you call, Travis, you call yourself a fighter, you call yourself a warrior, you call yourself these things. Are you really going to let life beat you like this? You're going to check out. You haven't accomplished all the things you said you wanted to do. You check out right now. Life beats you. You going to let that happen? And a lot of times it was just, honestly, I was bluffing. A lot of it was just me bluffing to myself, to be real about it. But it worked. Finding some kind of way to push through. Like I said, whether it be, you bluffing with yourself, convince yourself to give yourself one more day, even if you don't believe it at the time, and going with that. Or, reaching out and talking to people, man. Like I said, getting help, talking to a psychiatrist, talking to a therapist, calling that, suicide hotline if it's gotten to that point extreme, having some, building a relationship to where you feel like you can actually depend on somebody in those scenarios, even if it's just one person. Yeah, but guys, hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're staying strong and fighting your fight, man, and not running from these fights that we know we need to have, that we need to address to become the men we want to be. And if you're struggling, man, reach out, even if it's to us. It's like I said, I've definitely had my struggles. Edmund has had his own challenges that aren't necessarily like mine, but he's had his own stuff. So even if it's just sending us an email, sending us hitting a comment, hitting us up in the DMs, on Facebook or on Instagram or something like that, and starting a conversation, man. More than willing to have some of these conversations. Am I a therapist? No. am I credentialed to deal with some of these things? No. Have I had these experiences and been around enough people in my life who have had these experiences to know, like, hey, bro, I can identify with that? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So definitely tap in, man, reach out. And let's keep this moving, man, because we need all of us in this fight. It's not just about other people can, pick it. Nobody else is going to do your work. Nobody else is going to write your book. Nobody else is going to, bring your creation. Nobody else is going to raise your kids the way you could raise them. Nobody else is going to have an impact on this world that you could have had. It's going to be different without you here, man. It's going to be different without you. It's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as good. You have something to offer this world that nobody else on this planet can. And if you decide to not be here anymore, then the world is going to lose out on the thing that you were here to give, and that's a terrible thing. All right, guys. Well, you guys have an awesome Friday, man. Hope you guys are all, like I said, doing well, and hopefully, you got some value out of this conversation that we're having, man. And really, really felt some of this, because it's like this was definitely coming from the heart, and definitely a conversation that I think needs to be had, and not just had once a month, not just in June, but this is a conversation that needs to be had on a regular basis. Check in with your friends, man. Check in on your people, especially those strong friends. A lot of times they need it the most, man. As I can tell you that a lot of times they're having the biggest struggles, the hardest fights, and aren't willing to bring that up to you because they don't want to burden you, or they don't want to look weak, or whatever it may be, whatever reason it may be for them not to actually reach out. Maybe they just feel like they can't. Check on your people, check on your friends, check in on yourself, and let's stay in this fight, man. Because, like I said, we're all needed in this thing to move this thing forward. It's not going to take one of us; it's going to take all of us. All right, guys. So, all right, looks like we got one comment here. Yeah, man. Appreciate you showing up. Like I said, I think this was an important conversation that needed to be had, and it's one of those things. If I got to start the conversation, cool. But it's one of those things that all of us need to be having these conversations on a more regular basis, because men's mental health isn't one of those things that's talked about enough in society. It's one of those things that's almost kind of brushed under the rug, or kind of clumped in with just overall mental health. And men's mental health is different than women's mental health, man, in a big way and in a lot of ways. So we have to approach things differently, because there's a lot less spaces for us to be open and honest with what we have going on in a lot of ways. So definitely want to create more of that, create an environment where that's possible. And like I said, we do that in the Legion. Shameless plug. So if you guys want to join the Legion, the link will be in the description of the video. Definitely check that out. Tap in with us. But until then, guys, be better than good, be better than great. Let's fight this fight. Let's stay in this fight. Let's not keep running from the demons and these toothless dogs that have been chasing us for so long. Let's face these things, because a lot of cases it's just us that we're running from. It's just other versions of us that we need to address, things that we need to address, the fights that we're not willing to fight, the conversations that we're not willing to have, that will haunt you until you actually face it, and will only get louder. So let's not be afraid to do these things to become the best men we can be, and to keep fighting our fight, man, because at the end of the day, you much rather be a warrior in your garden than a gardener in a war. Take it easy, guys. See you guys next time.